Government shutdowns, that's just political stuff that doesn't bother me, right? Wrong. Shutdowns have a real impact on our everyday lives. From furloughs and missed paychecks to disruptions in essential services, shutdowns can hit us where it hurts, our wallets and well being. So, in this video, we're going to break down exactly what a government shutdown is, how it can impact you, and what you can do to prepare and protect yourselves. Starting with, what is a shutdown? So, government shutdown happens when Congress cannot agree on a budget to fund federal government operations. Think of it like this: you have a household budget, right? You and your partner manage that budget together, but you all can't agree on how to spend the money. Things start to get a little weight, right there. So, for example, you want to send the kids to private school, but your partner wants to save money and send them to public school. Or one person wants to donate money to a charitable cause, but the other person says, I don't want to do that because I don't like to give money outside. It's no need to give aid to outsiders. When you can't decide, when these two different groups can't decide, they hit a stalemate. Well, that's essentially what a government shutdown is, just the government shutdown is on a much larger scale and a lot more people are impacted. Here is the breakdown. Congress, that's Senate and the House of Representatives, is responsible for deciding how the government spends money. They pass bills that outline the budget for different federal agencies. Sometimes disagreements arise. That's just human nature. It could be about how much money to allocate to something, which programs should get funding, or even policies that they try to slide in and attach to the budget. The government needs a new budget by a certain deadline. At the time of this taping, the current deadline is March 14th, 2025, which means funding ends on March 15th. For my history buffs, March 15th is the Ides of March, which is known to be an ominous day for politics because it is the day that Caesar was assassinated. So, there's some hidden messages in there somewhere, probably. I don't know. If Congress misses that deadline, that March 14th deadline, funding runs out. What then happens is that we are in a government shutdown. Agencies must stop their non essential operations. Now, agencies can decide for themselves what is essential versus what is non essential. When I was a naval auditor, my role was considered non essential, which meant that I would not go to work if there was a shutdown and I would be furloughed. A furlough meant I would not receive a paycheck until the shutdown ended if Congress approved me to get a paycheck, right? It wasn't just automatically going to get a retroactive payment at that time. Fortunately, that shutdowns, when I was a federal employee, the shutdowns were narrowly avoided by a few hours. They would sign some at the last minute. That was those were during those beautiful Obama years. So like we didn't have to worry about the shutdown. It was resolved. Since the 1970s, the US federal government has experienced 20 shutdowns, varying in length from a few hours to over a few days, months even. In the 1980s, there were 4 shutdowns. In the 80s, 4. Those are quick. In the 80s, it was anywhere from 4 to 24 hours. They said, let's just, they worked together. In the 90s, there was a shutdown in 1990, 95, and then they had one that was 95 to 96. Those lasted 3, 5, and 21 days, respectively. So you see how we're going from like 4 hours, and that's quick, to like 21 days. Okay, 21 Savage. That's what came to mind. Anyway, then there came the shutdowns of the 2010s. That's when it really started to get wild and nasty. Because notably, under the Trump administration from 2018 to 2019, we had the longest shutdown on record at 35 days. Imagine 35 days without a paycheck. So for those federal employees who are furloughed, 35 days without a paycheck. Now ask yourself, could you survive that? Like, do you have enough savings to last 35 days without a paycheck? Let's bring it all together now. So now that we know what a shutdown is, what causes it, what it looks like, what does it actually mean for you? What's the impact? I'm going to do this in 2 ways. I'm going to do the impact if you're a federal worker and then an impact if you are not a federal worker. So if you're a federal worker, that means you work for the federal government, you will face those furloughs I talked about. Furloughs being a temporary unpaid leave. This means no paycheck until the shutdown ends. Fortunately, in 2019, Congress passed the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, which guarantees back pay for federal employees in the event of a shutdown. So when I was a federal employee, they didn't have that. After the furlough ended, you had to hope Congress would approve back pay, but now it is automatic. However, if there is a shutdown, you still need to be able to rely on your savings until the shutdown ends as a federal employee. Therefore, please, 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 I always say y'all have some savings built up to last through the furlough. And even if you're not a federal employee, I always say like have 3 to 6 months of savings built up. Also, as a federal employee, consider picking up a part-time gig. It might not be ideal, but it's just a way to cover the cost because you just don't want to be completely stranded without a source of income, right? Pro tip, some restaurants will offer discounts for federal employees during the shutdown. So that is a way, you can show your ID badge and save a little money. If you are not a federal employee, how does the shutdown impact you? You might be thinking like, I'm good, girl. My paycheck's still good. And it is. Your paycheck is fine. But some of your services may be delayed, interrupted, or completely unavailable. This could include things like national parks. They close when you don't have an essential employees there. Passport processing delays. You're trying to plan your summer trip or your spring break trip, and now you don't have your passport because it's a delay. Delays in Social Security benefits or veterans services. Again, those are all held by those roles are done by federal employees. And then there's also a risk of reduced food safety inspections. And we already got enough going on right now with this bird flu, so do we really need to add any more to it? Whether you are a federal employee or not, I want you to think through this as it plays out for you. Keep this in mind during a shutdown. Federal employees who are working are not getting paid. That means that TSA gate agent is forced to screen bags at the airport security checkpoint for free. That IRS employee is reviewing your tax return without getting paid. Ask yourself, if you were in their shoes, would you do your job without pay? Right. People are perfunctorily pushing through their job for a paycheck, and when the money is gone, so is the enthusiasm. So to add insult to injury, Congress actually gets their full paycheck during the shutdown, and the average salary for a congressional member is about $175,000 annually. So Congress is coasting on comfy income and delaying your direct deposit while you picked up a part-time job selling sub sandwiches and soda pops during the sunset shift at the 7-Eleven up the street to survive. In conclusion, a shutdown creates uncertainty in the economy, potentially affecting businesses and jobs. Government shutdowns are disruptive and stressful. They highlight the importance of political compromise and the impact of government decisions on our daily lives. Here's what you can do to survive a shutdown. 3 tips. Stay informed, plan ahead, contact your representative. Stay informed, that means keep up with news. Subscribe to this channel so you can know what's happening and how it affects you. Plan ahead. If you rely on government services, consider potential delays, make necessary arrangements, figure out what your work is going to be. Third, contact your representative. Please contact your representatives. Let your senators and representatives know your concerns about the shutdown and urge them to find a solution. When they feel that pressure, when they see you're calling the office, writing letters, scheduling meetings with them, they act because then they're like, ooh, this is the person who voted me in. If they don't like it, they might not vote for me again. And as always, like I said before, subscribe to Rich Like My Melanin's page for honest, fact-based financial advice. And in conclusion, have the day that you voted for.